Hey there, Sarah. NextGEN Medium, time to get ready to record a podcast. And I like to do the raw, uncut version here for you to watch because there's some extra stuff I put in here that I don't put in the podcast. And that's how I wanted to do my vlog stuff now. Now, last time I did a vlog, I added a little something to my decor. Whoop, whoop. And last week it was this thing, which oh shoot. I have not been talking in the microphone. So last week it was this thing because I'm a big Green Day fan and I never actually put it on my card. I've had this I actually won it in a contest of some sort from a Green Day fan site because of something extraordinary that I did. Um so that was the first thing that I added to my area. Today I'm actually going to feature a friend of mine who is an artist in New Hampshire. Her name is Cynthia Rizza. Oh, I just ripped the cellophane. I didn't mean to do that. Little ASMR. Someone got all excited about that, I'm sure. I shouldn't have opened that. Oh well. Cindy Rizza. Back in high school, we actually were friends for quite a while. She moved to my town in Maine, and she was always very artistic. And now she is a like for real artist. And this is a picture that she did that I bought off of her website, I think last year. It's called Snowbird, and it's very realistic. Her stuff is so nostalgic and homey. Um, and actually, I think about it right now, and the warmth that she puts into these realistic paintings that she does is actually very similar to um, some of the imagery I get. Um, it kind of has sort of that like 1980s hued old pictures. It's almost kind of warm looking, and she kind of has the ability to put that in her paintings to add that warmth and that nostalgic feeling. And so she does a lot of like home kind of um, very homey kind of feeling artsy things, pictures. Um, Blankets are a big one. Linen on that are drying in the sun. What is it? Clotheslines. That's old school, right? Very 80s, right? Uh, and you should check her stuff out. I'll probably put a link so you can check out Cindy's stuff. And that was one of my favorites because I love flamingos, especially these tacky ones that go in the lawn. And for the longest time, I wanted them, but this is how I could officially have one, sort of. That my husband would not give me the stink eye about. So there, we're adding that to our background. Cindy Rizza. Cindy Rizza. All right, getting ready to do the podcast. How come I can't hear anything? Because I didn't plug in my headphones. All right, so today's episode was not going to be today's episode. Today's episode was supposed to be about your empathic stuff. What I realized after basically writing the episode was that there's a bigger thing I need to talk about, and it has to do with the evolution of NextGEN Medium. Some of this is a little painful to talk about because here I am writing stuff. I got a website. It's all about awareness. It's about my truth. It's about bringing what I've learned to you guys because I believe everybody has this stuff, is invited to get to know their soul abilities. We're almost 5 minutes in. I haven't even gotten started. Uh, and so that's my mission, is to bring that awareness to you, but also to bring a little bit of my truth to it with what I understand about this whole soul journey stuff with your psychic abilities, your intuitive abilities, your mediumship abilities. And there's one fantastic truth that I have uncovered, and that it took some time for it to really become my truth and has changed how I talk about things. And so there's some ego stuff I've had to put aside and really come to terms with. And we're going to talk about it in this episode. Okay, here we go. If you haven't noticed, there's been a shift for NextGEN Medium. Now, I've talked about a shift a couple episodes ago where things are turning from my truth and understanding to become your truth and your understanding in your own uncoverings. The people I've been talking to over the summer that got a hold of me because of the podcast, because of my website. I've been able to talk with a lot of people and help them understand their abilities a little more based on my own experience. And so today we're going to talk about a truth of my experience, which I've had to come to terms with in its terrible timing, but also address some ego stuff that is my problem. And I need to lay out the truth here. I need to bring awareness to this for people who are listening. Not only because it'll make me feel better to kind of lay it out and address the elephant in the room when it comes to psychic, but I think there's also something for you to take away from this that is at my expense. Okay? And there's a little rant I got to go through too. And that's coming up this episode on NextGen Medium, the podcast. I had an OBGYN appointment today, and I wrote this during my appointment, waiting for the doctor. And if this is the final version, I will be shocked because I really haven't had time to really sit with this and talk it out in my head or to myself, which sometimes involves me talking out loud to myself, like I'm doing right now. Um, but we're going to see how this goes. We're going to see how this goes. Hey there, Sarah with you, NextGen Medium. I've discovered that I have psychic, medium, intuitive abilities. You notice how I'm saying this more often? Psychic, intuitive, mediumship abilities. Just mental note there. I have discovered this for myself. I've become aware that this stuff has always been with me. It wasn't until I uncovered it and became aware of it that I came to the understanding that this is something I can do and something you can do too. And that was the big purpose of Next Gen Medium, was to bring that awareness to you, but also to help you get started in crossing that threshold and really gaining your footing once you step in. So here we are. Okay, there's my intro. So, this episode touches on something that has been mulling around inside of me for quite a while. It's been roiling. Is that a word? Broil, boiling, royal, royal oil, royal oil. Okay, I don't know. But anyway, and it has to do with the very subject that I talk about all the time in the word psychic. So, when I started Next Gen Medium, I had a novice understanding of definitions. And you've probably noticed on your journey so far of uncovering what's going on with what you've experienced. What are those things called? What do those things feel like? Is that really what I'm going through? You've noticed the difficulty in uncovering your abilities because definitions are different from one source to another. You don't know whose experience you can rely on when it comes to aligning your experience and creating your truth. Understanding is very difficult. when it comes to these soul abilities. One of the big motivating factors of me starting NextGen Medium was the point to share my truths, to share my understandings, to do it honestly by using my experiences, and to be a voice that could share the doubts and the obstacles that I've experienced so far in my soul adventure. Part of this is it's kind of exciting to talk about. It obviously is exciting to talk about. It's exciting to uncover it. It's exciting to share it with people. But I was also having a very difficult time really understanding things because it just seemed like everybody had a different way of explaining things. Nobody was really talking about this difficulty of inconsistencies with even talking about soul stuff. When I say soul stuff, I'm talking about those soul abilities like your psychic ability, your intuition, your mediumship, healing. And I feel like I've held true with sharing my truths, how I've come about having those truths, being super honest about my experience. And I stand solid in that stuff. And there's one thing, and it's a huge thing, that really has come to my attention. And it's a very basic understanding that I thought I understood when I started NextGen Medium. But now, having gained more information, having tested out information, tested out new ways of discovering my own abilities, there is a glaring misunderstanding that it took more, that it took awareness, and that it took more testing for me to be aware of that it's an issue. So I've built NextGen Medium with the intention of a naked reflection of my experience. So this is probably the dirtiest thing I've ever uncovered. But in the excitement of sharing my journey, my understanding of a key word became challenged, the word psychic. And we're going to talk about that right now. I got to do segments or else it gets boring for podcasts. This is probably not going to be a super exciting one because there's a lot of like inner conflict I have going on, not necessarily with addressing the issue sort of publicly, but there's still some negative stuff I feel that I'm going to touch upon pretty soon. So psychic. NextGen Medium is helping you with your psychic abilities. Psychic to me when I got started was all the phenomena that was unexplained. Now, when I started with my unfoldments, when my awareness was when the awareness of my abilities was uncovered, I could sense the difference between mediumship and psychic. There was a clear distinction for me. How I perceive these two things are quite different from my experience. My experience. This is the key here. My experience. With mediumship, there's an actual physical place. I say actual physical, but there's a location in my periphery where my mediumship really takes place, where I enter to use it. And you in the vlog world can see that it's right here for me. This is where my window is. This is where I have a little cutout into the spirit worlds, um, in which I start to see people's faces And I will say there has been evolution where it's more in a place in my mind. It's not so much like right here, it's more sort of in this location, but closer into my brain. It's weird. And the psychic stuff was more global. It was more, it came in a general sense. It wasn't a particular place. It was just all over. And also, the emotion and the physical feelings I would take on, um, I could also feel that that was heavily attributed to psychic stuff. There came a time that you've probably come across when I had a chat with Elizabeth Thorson, the medical intuitive. She brought something into the conversation that just echoes through my mind every time I think of her. And it's when she wanted to bring up that there is a difference between intuitive and psychic. And when she said it, it was sort of like, oh, okay, well, uh, I didn't realize there was a distinction. Okay, you know. Um, and honestly, after she kind of explained it, it was like, I can see your logic, but I don't understand this as my truth. And so I sat with it for some time, um, after its awareness peaked with the conversation with Elizabeth Thorson, which you can check out at nextgenmedium.com. I have actual video of us having a conversation. It was like an hour long. Um, Once I simmered with the information she gave me, I began to understand how I received information seemed to be from the same place when we're talking about psychic and intuition. They use the same higher senses in my experience. They're the same imagery from my experience. They even like even the emotion I feel is quite similar as well. But as I actively exercised the switching between these two skill types, I started seeing definition. I started understanding how there could be a difference between these two skills, which to me had felt like the same skill all along. So, with this discovery, there was a challenge. And it's unfortunate because I now see a distinction. Psychic to me is more, now that I understand it differently, psychic to me is more of a limited skill set that includes seeing the past and seeing the future. For me, there is clairvoyance and an emotional feeling from the past, and a clairvoyance, seeing and feeling in the future. But I have those same things when I'm talking about my intuitive receivings. But I see intuition as different as than psychic. To me, intuition is closer to me. When I receive, it's like direct into my, what is that? Xiphoid process. What do people call it? Their gut? Sarah has to whip out xiphoid process and then spell it XYPHOID process. Show off. Um, so I now see intuition as receiving information that is closer to me. It is a more intimate skill that works more directly with my higher self and more directly with the higher self of others. It's like a direct and more intense energy. I also think of intuition as your home base. My furnace just went off. You don't know it, but I'm just going to keep going. I just don't even, I can't deal with it anymore. I think of it as your home base. Now, here's the other thing about intuition. It's less glamorous than being able to see the future. Intuition really relies on that gut instinct, that gut feeling. There's also some stuff about intuition that takes a little bit more effort that I think would make intuition much more appealing to people. That would make intuition much more appealing to people. My phone just went off. I'm not going to touch it. It's going to beep though. That would make intuition much more appealing, more glamorous. But intuition is really the foundation of your soul skills. It's your soul abilities starter kit. That's my Oprah. Now, this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg of what I've come to understand about intuition. In fact, we're going to get to a point when that is all I'm going to talk about for a while because there's a lot to talk about with it. Coming across Elizabeth Thorson and what she had to say about intuition made me realize that there were two things working in concert together that were actually two separate entities of skills. If I hadn't come across her, I wouldn't have known that. And I would still be going on without saying intuitive, talking about intuition foundations. Okay. So the time that I came across this information, I was already, I don't know, 4 or 5 months into NextGEN Medium blogs, podcasts, vlogs, where I've been talking about psychic as if psychic also included intuition stuff. So I had a misconception. I didn't understand. This discovery made me have to face an egoic challenge that I was wrong. I was wrong. I didn't understand things correctly. Here I am talking to people about this stuff. I was misleading people with the information I was putting out there. What I understand now is not what I understood at that one point. And now I see the distinction. And now I understand why it's so important to have that distinction. I dislike the insecurities I feel when I'm wrong. I bet you do too. I dislike building up in my own head what people think of me when I'm wrong. I bet you feel like that too. I dislike thinking that people's understandings of this new world grew from my misconceptions. That's a responsibility I got to put on myself. And it sucks. I hate that. So, here I am setting it straight. I feel shame and guilt and embarrassment. And that's natural for me to feel when my ego is being challenged. I did not intend to misinform. So I shouldn't hold that against myself. But I do feel responsible that my unawareness, my ignorance put misinformation out there. That people who are genuinely looking for someone with integrity to teach them how to unfold, how to become familiar with how they receive, how they use their soul abilities. They came to me. I'm telling them stuff about psychic that actually was intuitive abilities. Like there's some stuff in there. Fun fact, the episode that I was going to talk about today had to do with empathy. Um being an empath. And then it struck me that I can't talk about being an empath if I don't address the difference between psychic and intuitive, because being an empath is actually a part of your intuition, and it's not psychic. That was the fun fact. So it was not my intention to misinform people. And this is the gold of NextGEN Medium. I'm new, just like you. I'm going off the same information that you're going off to. And you know, as well as I know, it's really hard to get some definitions and get some clarity in this whole soul ability world. There's not one source that you can go to. There's no guide that lays it all out. And that's secretly part of my mission too. Like, let's have some consistency here. Let's have some consistency. I came into this believing psychic was something that now I know isn't. And that's what this whole thing's about. I'm kind of mad now. And I think part of it is I'm just kind of mad with myself. So I'm new just like you. This is the honesty I can bring to NextGen Medium, to the blog and the vlog and the podcast. You are reading this, trying to understand this world for yourself, or you're listening to this. You're listening to this and trying to understand this world for yourself, and so am I. Try to understand this world for myself. And part of me needed to put this out there, this particular episode, to get this stuff off my chest. Part of me wants to share the humility of seeking out your understanding of this world. It's funny being a human. You know what's funny about being a human? um, this isn't going to be in the podcast probably, but when I had my spiritual awakening a couple years ago, becoming a human became very different than what I grew to understand was important to being a human. Being a human to me used to be achieving perfection, creating a spreadsheet that gave you the most information in order to make the best decision you could. After my spiritual awakening, I realized perfection wasn't the priority. Perfection was not the priority. Can my phone just stop for a minute? Oh my God, people. All right, apparently I got to shut this thing off. But it's James, my husband. No. All right. Shut off. It's the kids' school. What do you know? Corona has made it so that school has to shut down. Good Lord. I'm going to get to some stuff in a minute here that's going to touch some buttons maybe. So after my spiritual awakening, I became much more focused on connection with people than I was on detail-oriented work. Detail-oriented work was what I thought was like, I'm really good at the details, you know? And I became so good at the details. It was sorta like people were going, "Sarah, nobody's gonna see that." Like, "S Sarah, that's just not gonna make a difference in what people are gonna see or understand," or like, "Sarah, you're going above and beyond where you're the only one that's gonna know that that stuff even happened, that work you're putting in," you know? And then I realized that's, with my spiritual awakening that it was connection with people and attention to people. Attention. Not to the spreadsheet, attention to how I was feeling, what I was what I was saying. Like, that was more important. I'm sure I could say this much more eloquently, but there was a change. There was a big change. But I think I still have that type A kind of person in me. It's who I was for 34 years, was someone trying to seek that perfection, someone else's perfection. Someone else decided what was perfect, and then I had to get that, that's me. Someone else made that up, but that's me. Nope, not anymore. So, like I said, a part of me wants to share the humility of seeking out your understanding of this world. Like I also said, there is no guidebook that everybody can turn to understand the soul world. Getting to know your intuition or becoming familiar with your psychic mediumship or healing concentrations. There aren't even consistent definitions to some very basic things to do with soul work. Look at me every time I say psychic, medium, intuitive. Every time I say that, I cringe because there's got to be a better way to say that. I've yet to come across it. Those are three different skills: psychic, intuitive, medium. This is information that's come and received in different ways. That comes to me and is received in different ways. So, I've come up with soul abilities as a way to describe these distinct things. Meanwhile, soul abilities also encompasses healing, which honestly isn't something I've even tapped into yet. I haven't even looked into it because I've been so busy doing the fun stuff that I already do. Maybe when I get bored with the other stuff, I'll go to the healing, but there's nothing in me that feels directed to the healing quite yet. Like, I'm feeling pretty entertained with what I got. So I set out to bring honesty in my journey so you can resonate with one vulnerable person who wants to pull back the curtain so you can see just what exactly is going on with soul stuff. So you can identify with it. So you can say, maybe I'm a part of that. So you can connect to one person who's not too far off from where you are in your journey, and from one person who's willing to put it out there at my own expense. This is an opportunity for you to see the true to life evolution of understanding. What was once my truth has evolved. New information was put in my periphery, and now a new truth has come to be. And that is the goal of being a human: gaining more experiences to have a closer understanding to your truth. And that's what I can bring you with NextGen Medium. I hate that I could have misled people. and I don't want to say I don't know if misled's the right word because it's not like I intended to do that. It was more or less this is what I understood and I felt pretty good about that. And then it was challenged. Wow. And it sucks. I hate it so much. But in order for me to go forward and for you to have a good understanding and maybe gain a little more trust in the humility aspect of all this, um, maybe it'll help clarify things for you in your process. So, in my experience, psychic and intuitive receivings, messaging was like the same thing to me. It was all coming from this or being received by the same stuff. It really had no differences in how it was being received. It wasn't until I was given well, psychic is more of like in the past or in the present, whereas intuitive is something that's direct. And when I'm reading intuitively or when I'm sitting with somebody and using my intuition, there is a difference. I do notice the difference when it comes to what the information is and not necessarily how it's received differently. So, it's still something I struggle with that I feel like I have made a new truth in it, but that intuition really has become something completely like out of the blue, huge. Um, Let me put it another way. I thought psychic was sort of a you're in or you're out. Like you either have it or you don't. Um, but when I kind of started to get into the intuition stuff, started to understand it and started to explore it more, it really became apparent to me that that was the initiating step to get you comfortable and to guide you into that psychic mediumship healing, those concentrations. The intuition was that first step. And so that took some time to evolve, took some time to understand, it took some time to test, but it really was like a wow, that's a big one to learn and a very inconvenient time to learn it. It comes at its own time, and that's something to grow comfortable with. The struggle for people, and this goes beyond just me having humility in this episode, and something to think about for yourself, something to think about for the people you love, and something to think about for the people that you don't like so much. There are a lot of people out there questioning their understanding right now. They have to choose to surrender the war of their ego, of their identity, or continue the protection of their ego or identity. Ego and identity are the same thing. They have to choose between fallibility versus an ideal. Being human versus denial of humanity. Surrendering the surrendering the identity is allowing change and growth with a little bit of egoic pain. That's what I'm feeling. My ego hurts. It's been hurting for a little while. That's why it was time to do this because I think it makes me feel better. Kind of cleans the slate. Little bit of egoic pain and lesser energetic influence. Okay? So that means I feel a certain way. It reaches into those lower energies of maybe shame or guilt. But you know what? Being okay with change and growth allows for that little dip to be just a little dip so that I can spring back and be in those mid to higher energies. We all want to be happy, right? Protecting the identity, on the other side of things, is allowing for fear and anger and despair, digging deeper into low energy emotions until you're beyond the bottom of those low energy emotions and you're not even human anymore. You're digging into animal instincts and de-evolution. Continually protecting the identity causes a buildup of egoic pain that becomes an unscalable mountain and perpetuates a heavy, low energy, emotional tailspin. It's very hard to break out of that. After a while, it's just how you exist. It's how you live in this world. So, a lot of people are going through that stuff right now. They're having to choose swallowing their pride or continuing their pride. And when you're in moments like that, understand that being a human being is not perfection. It's making a choice to change and move on because it's better for you. And it's better for the people around you and the people you love and your community. And then it, goes all out to the world. It reverberates. So I'm going to leave this episode with that note. And going forward, intuition is going to be a big, big deal to me with information that I have to give you. Psychic, it's going to be honed down a little bit. There's some stuff I got to go through in the blog and the vlog and the podcast when it comes to what I've already put out there. Whereas I'm saying something psychic when in fact it's actually intuitive. Empath stuff is intuitive. So I got to go back and kind of rework that stuff. I bring this whole thing to you so that you can see your journey is an evolution. One thing comes along and your whole truth changes. And that's okay. It's part of the human experience. We get really caught up with being right. But what if we got caught up in doing the right thing? The thing that's actually better for you in the long run. Which is, I was wrong. Here's a little explanation. Know that I did not intend to do it that way. That's just how I understood. And here's what I'm going to do going forward. That's it. You know what? You shouldn't even have to explain yourself. At least to yourself. So, there it is. That is this episode of NextGEN Medium. I've actually titled this already, The Burdens of Being an Evolving Soul Worker. Working with your soul. Yeah. So that's where I'm going to leave that. You can check out the blog, vlog, and other podcasts at nextgenmedium.com. I also, if you are looking for a trusted individual who likes to lay it out and be completely honest with what I understand and maybe my evolution even, you are more than welcome to book a consult with me. So what is a development session? What is this consult I speak of? It's a 45-minute chat with you over video chat. I do it through Zoom. I do it through Google Meets. It's really up to you, whichever one we use. But and it's sort of a spiritual chat. And the point is to have a person to person talk about what you're going through. And for you to get information from someone who's on the same page as you, who's a couple steps ahead of you, also to maybe make you feel a little more secure in where you're at. Um and maybe help you with your next steps. So in 45 minutes, I'm going to ask you stuff about what's going on, what happens with you. And then I can sort of gauge an assessment. And then from there, I'm going to give you some moving forward kind of stuff. And it's very much like a consult. Um, and if you want to do like a series, we can do that. Just take a look at my calendar on my website, nextgenmedium.com. You can pick a date that works good for you. And put down a deposit, and that holds the dates. Also, if you have found NextGen Medium to be helpful for you, it would be wonderful if you would leave a donation. That helps with the operating costs of the website and the podcasts, and tells me that you care about the information that I'm putting out. That this is stuff that you find brings something to this world of soul awareness and abilities, stuff that is very meaningful to you, and that you want others to um, be able to engage with themselves. You can leave a donation at nextgenmedium.com. If you want the raw, uncut version of this podcast, take a look at the YouTube channel where I post all the podcast recording videos. And you can check out all the other stuff I've done in the past. Add your name to get emails about upcoming Next Gen Medium stuff at nextgenmedium.com. We're talking about educational stuff that I have kind of waiting in the wings. Also, contests for free readings. And I got some more stuff coming down the pike with the website. So I'm really excited for that, but I'm going to hold off on talking about it. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest for all your social media liking needs. And until next time, have a pleasant rest of your day. Let me say that nicer. I lost feeling in my legs. Ugh. Okay. Until next time, have a pleasant rest of your day. To all of you listening in Sydney, Rotherham. I don't know if I said that right. Rotherham. It's in Yorkshire. San Jose, in Toronto. Be safe, and I'll chat with you later. See you. Bye. So, a little something extra here in the raw, uncut version. I've had sort of an emotional couple of days, and I'm just kind of drained from emotion. And maybe you've noticed that with this episode where, I feel drained, and I do feel emotionally drained. This episode was filmed a week before the inauguration of Joe Biden here in the States. And I'm sure everybody around the world who's watching this are like, oh my God, the US people talking about US crap. I'm so sick of it. But there's a lot of division going on in the country where it's in families. And there's just stuff that people are engaging in that just blows my mind. Like, what are you doing? And it makes me feel like there's just no single logic. All right, I'm going to stop right there. I could keep going with this, but yeah, I'm just not feeling it the past couple days. And I feel like I needed this episode in order to just get some of the weight off of me. There it was. Okay. Hey, you, smash that like button. I think it's over there. It's right there. There's like a thumbs up. Check out the links in the description for the podcast, blog, social media, the website. And I'll put a link to check out Cindy's artwork down there as well. Cindy Rizza. I just got an email from my husband hoping to get a camp. He's so silly. You can donate at nextgenmedium.com. At least I'm smiling about it. Well, I gotta win the lottery first, right? And then I can have a camp on a lake or something. And yeah, you can book an appointment if you want a development session. I'm down. If you want a reading, I would love to do a reading. Just go to nextgenmedium.com and check out my schedule. I probably have a link down there. Oh, you know what? I do. Let's check it out. And just pick a date and throw down a deposit, and we'll be good to go. So that does it for the raw, uncut version of the Next Gen Medium podcast. And I will chat with you next week, and we'll talk about that intuition skill. And you could probably check that out in the future if I've already put that on there on this thing here. I have not been drinking, I promise you. Let me stop my podcast here. Okay, that does it. Good luck to you and the rest of the week, and take care. Take care of yourself. And remember that compassion piece. The shit. Ooh, I swore. The stuff that people are going through right now. They're having an internal battle. And it's easy to turn it outside. So keep that in mind. Have a great rest of your week. Bye. Peace out. Cindy Rizza.